Imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, the notorious RMB, here for Captain Marvel week. Yes, indeed, it's the second day of Captain Marvel week. Of course, the reviews are out. They're dropping. People are talking. If you want to read an interesting counter perspective, I would suggest reading both the Variety and Hollywood Reporter reviews of Captain Marvel. A lot of talk happening. It's very, very interesting. And what else is interesting is all the stuff people keep writing to me. And, you know, again, I keep thinking about the state of geek culture. There's been this raging debate on my Twitter feed that I really haven't been participating in about Star Trek fans. Now there's alt Trek, I hear. Discovery fans, people are angry. It's crazy out there, you know. It is like dogs and cats living together. But again, I keep getting emails from people that watch this show, people that watch the John Campea show, people that watch Collider Heroes. And actually, I just wanted to say, with all the acrimony flying back and forth about everything, and now I just read some ridiculous article about Elizabeth Olsen is pissed off because the way Captain Marvel is being treated and how it's just such hogwash. But anyway, in my inbox, I'm getting rainbows and moonbeams over here. And I figured, since you guys are taking the time to send me such nice missives, then why can't I share them? Because it makes me feel good to get these things, but also I think it's worth sharing. I mean, it's worth sharing. When I started this podcast, when I started doing Robservations, these live chats, I never thought that the thing that people seem to respond to the most about these chats is my unbridled enthusiasm and positivity. That's something that has truly surprised me. I could not have known that when I was starting these chats, but it has been pretty joyful to hear, because again, you know, this is my outlet. This is if I'm not on the internet talking about my positivity or how excited I am for things, I'm usually just working. I'm actually, ladies and gentlemen, I'm taking out. I talked this morning, but I'm working on a little 40-second trailer for Skyfighter, the short film that we just finished, and it's pretty cool. Like the trailer, I'm digging it. And you guys, it'll be something that we can post everywhere to use as marketing material before the film is out publicly. But I'm excited about it. But first, I wanted to read a few emails. I think one of these I might have read before, but I'm going to read it again just because I thought it was worth sharing. This one comes from Matt Fitzpatrick. Hi, Rob. I have never written to a public figure, let alone a well-respected gatekeeper of verisimilitude, before, but I had to let me start over. Hi, Rob. I have never written to a public figure, let alone a well-respected gatekeeper, before, but I had to reach out after listening to the Robservations episode on your history and love of action figures. I'm primarily referring to the part you discussed on how you realized that you were setting up visuals and telling your own stories when you played. The way you used your toys as tools to begin creating your own stories. The wanting of new figures and accessories that were needed to serve that particular story. I couldn't believe you said that, as I had once come to that same realization of myself, and just as you described. A few years ago, I too had thought back on why I held on to a love for action figures from childhood, through my teens, and plotting out these continued stories when babysitting my young cousin, which gave me an excuse to keep playing out these adventures and battles over the fate of the house, Toy Earth. Everything you said about your own experiences on the topic was uncannily similar to a T. Though I do not collect figures anymore, I am still an appreciator and visual artist. Due to the reality of keeping the bills and loans paid, I'm currently strapped for time in pursuing my dreams of creating my own comics, stories, and other media full-time. My day is filled with 2 jobs with little time for my artistic endeavors. However, during those evenings, while delivering pizzas on my second job, I have the Robservations chats playing constantly. These episodes help to keep that creative ember glowing that I soon will make the time to stoke into a full burning fire. I just wanted to express my enthusiasm on hearing that episode, and just to say thank you very much, Rob, for your input and influence. Your show and the ones you're involved with are a huge source of positivity and enjoyment in my life. I appreciate you taking the time to read this and you are welcome to share this email if you like. All the best to you, Gilbert and Skippy, Matt Fitzpatrick, fellow imagination connoisseur. I mean, this is exactly the kind of email that I love to get and I love to hear, because again, all of us, everybody here, members of the Post-Geek Singularity community, and you, my fellow imagination connoisseurs, I think that to be using your imagination, for the most part, I mean, sure, I've got a dark part of my imagination as well, but for the most part, using your imagination is something probably uniquely human. Sentient beings it's probably unique to them. And it's nice to be sharing all of that, because I've been drenched, I've been drowning in my own imagination for most of my life. And there's nothing I like better than to see the results of everyone else's imaginations, whether it's books or movies or comics or model kits or artwork, the great works of art. I mean, if you think about it, what is better than going into a museum, especially a museum with all kinds of classical artwork, and seeing what people were thinking about and dreaming about and imagining about hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. I mean, it's these works of imagination, these pop culture works I think a lot of them will stand the test of time, and they have a lot to say about who we are as a people and as our culture progresses. What does it all mean? I don't know. That's what we're here for. That's what we're having these discussions about. But I really like what Mr. Fitzpatrick had to say, and I'm glad that he understands my action figure obsession. Now, I'm moving on to another email that actually meant a great deal to me, and let me read it, and I'll explain to you why. This comes from Ben Ellman. Hi, Rob. I discovered you on the John Campea show, and I loved your positive outlook on things, so I decided to check out your channel. So glad that I did. I'm an 18-year-old geek in my first year of college, and even in this post-geek singularity community that we live in, I can sometimes feel alone as a geek. Watching the John Campea show and your Robservations chats help me know that I'm not alone, and that there are hundreds of others like me who care so much about geek culture and who base their lives around it. I love hearing about your opinions on Star Trek and other great geek movies and TV. As someone who loves the JJ movies and Discovery and discovered Trek through the 2009 movie, I appreciate the way you love that people can love something even if you do not. You are a great member of the geek community. I truly look up to you and your views on inclusion in the geek community and how you seek to bring people together. I hope one day to meet you. Live long and prosper. Ben, I was really touched by your email. First of all, if I look at my YouTube analytics, my primary audience is like between 34 and 45 years of age. And I love hearing from a younger person. And I'm glad when I was a kid, in this day and age, it seems like it would never have happened. But when I was a kid and I was 13 years old and started rolling into Video Space, which was one of the first premier video stores in the United States in Seattle, there were these two guys that worked there. One was Steve Pitcher. He was younger. He's probably either in his late, 19, 20, 21, college age. And then there was Bud Warner. And he was a guy, if you met him on the street, you might think he was sketchy. He kind of always had a trench coat, and he looked like a guy who belonged in a movie, like he was like he was a guy Dirty Harry would kill. But he was the nicest guy in the world, and he was a total movie, especially a horror movie fanatic. And he and Steve were the first guys to sort of take me under their wing, and they started showing me movies that I'd never seen before. They would take me to the drive-in and stuff, and there was nothing untoward going on. They just recognized me as somebody who was, I guess I was a little wiser beyond my years, but I was really, really, really into things. And I read a lot. And I think in this day and age, parents might have had a problem with the kind of relationship I had with Bud and Steve, but I assure you all, it was on the up and up. There was even a time when I was a kid, and still to this day, I don't think kids talk about it the way they used to talk about it, but there was one movie. It was the most notorious movie ever. And it was a movie that nobody wanted you to see. And it was Pier Paolo Pasolini's Solo, the 120 Days of Sodom. Now, Bud Warner had this amazing collection of bootleg videotapes. He had movies. I don't know where he got them. I know now because I did it myself. But he was the first person to show me, like, I drink your blood. Now, if you haven't seen that, I mean, these are classics. He showed me Texas Chainsaw for the first time. Actually, Steve Pitcher showed me Texas Chainsaw. Bud Warner was the guy who got me my first bootleg videotapes, which was, of course, Dawn of the Dead. And these guys, Bud took me to see Motel Hell at a drive-in, and the second feature was David Cronenberg's They Came From Within, and that began it was a terrible print, too. It looked like somebody dragged it to the drive-in. But it was my first experience seeing a Cronenberg movie, and it was fantastic. And when Scanners came out, I've told the story before, the Coliseum Theater in downtown Seattle showed They Came From Within, which is known as Shivers, but in America it was released as They Came From Within. They showed Shivers, Rabid, and The Brood before the first showing of Scanners. And I famously dragged a bunch of my friends down, and I had to like beg people in line to like get me and my friends in because we're all like 13. So I really appreciate this message, Ben, because, you know, I had these people that were really influential in my life, and they never treated me like a kid. They treated me as a kindred spirit, and there just weren't that many of us. You know, there weren't that many of us, and there certainly was no way to connect like there is with the internet today. So it was really important to me that I had voices that sort of took me under their wing and sort of helped me and appreciated my enthusiasm and supported my interests and really became friends. And it's funny, I believe I had some kind of a falling out with Steve, which I don't know why, but it now that I think back on it, I mean, it's been what, 35 years or something. But these guys, I still think about them often, and I have nothing but fondness for them, and what they did for me, and the movies they showed me, and the world they introduced me to. It was very funny because Salo, the 120 Days of Sodom, would sometimes play at the local landmark theater, the Neptune Theater in Seattle. Well, one day, I think we were all in high school, it actually played, and it lived up to its notoriety. It was certainly not what I expected to see, and it was pretty disgusting. However, I thought quite a good film, and it had a lot to say. And now I own it. You know, I had the Laserdisc of Salo. Criterion put it out, but it was it's not exactly a pleasant viewing experience, and you know, it's not notorious in a fun way. But you should, if anybody's interested and you like transcendent film, yeah, it's a little rough. But again, Ben, thank you for your thoughtful email. I really appreciate it. But it just made me realize that, you know, there's people in your lives. What I find now is that because I'm basically I'm stunted mentally. I mean, my mom, you know, if Toys R Us was still around, she could still send me gift cards for Toys R Us, and that would be an okay present for me. Which my mom, I don't think it's an okay present for her, but, you know, she doesn't understand why is it that the same things I was talking about when I was 6, Star Trek, action figures, comic books, why am I still talking about them, you know, almost a half century later? Well, because they're awesome, and because more people are interested in them now because we live in the Post-Geek Singularity community. I think it's great. And it's great to have the next generation of fans having this kind of communications. I mean, if I had this when I was like 8, I mean, my parents would have been upset with me because I would have drained their credit cards on Amazon orders. But the fact that you can now literally get everything that you want, I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. Although I would not have had the opportunity to have people like Bud Warner and Steve Pitcher to sort of indoctrinate me into the ways of the geek life and show me the horror films I had not seen. I mean, you know, I do hate that the first time I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre was on a bootleg videotape, and it was terrible. I mean, you could make out what happened, sort of, but I mean, it was god awful. But it even made the experience grungier, and it felt like I was really seeing something I wasn't supposed to see at 13 when Bud's like, dude, check this out, you know? And now I'm sure there'd be people having problems with the fact that some 35-year-old man had me over to his house and was showing me Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I assure you it was all on the up and up, because Bud would give me these long lectures about what the movie was about and who made it and why it was relevant. And, you know, he wasn't just trying to put the zap on me. He was sharing his enthusiasm. And it was funny because, you know, when you're doing that, I never saw an age difference. You know, I had lots of, it turned out I ended up in my teen years, I wound up because of the Seattle Film Festival, my friend Craig Hyland, who's still one of my dear friends. I mean, I had friends that were in their 30s and 40s, and I was a teenager. And it was not unusual for me because it was always it was my interests. I met these people because of my tremendous interests, and they were always very nice to me. And there's Dale Nash and John Teagarden up at the Seattle International Film Festival. Those guys, man, they were a couple, and they were the nicest dudes in the world. And it was great to have people like that from the film festival that sort of took me under their wing. And it was just great to have groups of friends like this that were older that shared their knowledge and enthusiasm. So I was very lucky in that regard. So Ben, I appreciate the fact that you listen to me and you don't think, I'm an old man screaming, get off my lawn. Here's another one. This is from Jeff T. Hudick. Jeff says, hi, Rob. Just a quick email to say thanks for the chat you're doing almost every day on all things geek. I'm disabled and my outside interactions are somewhat limited. Thus, it is a pure joy to listen and participate in your chats when you do them and watch you on Campia Show each day. I find your refreshing take on geek culture to be a beacon of joy and hope during a time when vitriol and rage seem to cloud almost every discussion on the topic. I've not thought about the JCPenney and Sears Christmas catalogs in decades until you brought them up again on your show. Thanks for that. The joy I used to feel from just opening and smelling the pages of those books is something I greatly miss. Many in geek culture could and should learn from your approach to discussing pertinent issues. Though you don't like Star Trek Discovery and critique it often, never does your criticism come across as brash, rageful, or rude. You do not attack the creators personally. Well, the utter nonsense that is going on right now in regards to Brie Larson is shameful. I mean, come on. What comic book geek isn't dying to see Captain Marvel? And yet, a hate-filled campaign was launched by geeks, I presume, to ruin the film because why? Some guys' penises are too small to accept a strong woman's opinion is valid. Not cool. We used to argue as kids all day over who was stronger, the Hulk or Superman, and we never came away from such arguments with hate in our hearts for each other. And we never attacked each other personally over our opinions. Your shows and chats are a fantastic way for me to stay connected to not only the current world, but to my childhood. What you're doing and how you do it is valuable, helpful, informative, fun, and important. Like I stated, though not physically disabled, I'm pretty much housebound by a disability and look forward to your shows and their positive outlook on life and geek culture to help me stay connected to the present-day world and the world of my childhood in a bright, hope-filled, fun way. This is lacking in the geek culture today, but you are a beacon bringing the light back to the darkness that has for too long engulfed it. Keep up the grand work, my friend. It is much appreciated. Sincerely, Ralphus's pal from Blood-Sucking Freaks, Jeff T. Hudick. Well, Jeff, dude, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And for those who, we talked about the movie Blood-Sucking Freaks, another very notorious film from my childhood. If you haven't seen it, I don't know if I can really recommend that you do. Again, I don't know if I can recommend seeing Solo. But you know, Criterion is having one of their 24-hour 50% off flash sales. So perhaps you could go pick up Solo and watch it for yourself. But anyway, so that's kind of what I wanted to just read those letters, and it's great to hear that people are feeling positive about these chats and what's going on here at the Post-Geek Singularity community, the Post-Geek Singularity of community that Robservations is bringing you hopefully on a daily basis. I really appreciate that, and I see a recurring theme in these letters, and I got a few more. I got a great letter from Willow Yang today that I'll probably read at some point. So Willow, I appreciate that and appreciate your support. And also I've got a few people seem to love on my Patreon channel. I've told you guys before, if you're a patron of mine, I've been dropping videos Greg Smith has been sending me of the progress of his build of Priscilla, Queen of the Glacier, his 1-to-1 scale probe droid he's building for the Emerald City Comic-Con. He built the land speeder last year, which I think he's going to take to the Emerald City Comic-Con along with Priscilla, Queen of the Glacier. So people have been digging. I'll keep, as soon as, since he keeps, so what I'm doing with my patrons is I'm dropping these videos for my patrons only, and along with some other interesting videos you might be interested in. But people seem to really like these videos, and I'm going to try for my Patreon subscribers to come up with more content like that. Now, you know, eventually everybody will be able to see it because I'll make it go live. But for my patrons, I want to give people a special look at these things. And I just put up the 6th build video, Greg's build video, and it's really starting to take shape. But again, I like that people are positive about these things because it's fun for me. I'm actually going to drop on on my Patreon channel, and eventually, you guys, if you're not, I'm not saying you have to become a Patreon subscriber of mine because I'll eventually put it and make it go live. But I made a short film called The Sacred Fire with Peter Billingsley from A Christmas Story. He stars in it. We co-directed it, and I shot it. And it was based on a short story by Charles DeLint. And we made it like 25 years ago. And it's, you know, it's when we were working on the Full Moon movie Arcade, we were re-editing the entire movie, Peter and I were. And I found the tape. Now, it's not going to look that good because it's a VHS tape. And frankly, I don't know if it works, but I have 2 copies of it. I'm going to put it up first for my patrons. It's like a 15-minute short film. And as I said, it's based on a story by Charles DeLint. And I'm going to start putting more and more stuff like that up on this channel so people can see it. But The Sacred Fire, it's worth seeing. It's worth seeing. You know, Peter went on and executive produced Iron Man, and he directed the movie Couples Retreat. So I think that'll be a cool thing to share, and you can sort of see my illustrious past and what I was doing back in the day. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. But we'll see. But one of the things that the byproduct of these chats and talking about these things is clearly, with all the acrimony that's going on in fan circles, there's still a lot of, I feel the good in you, the conflict. There is no conflict. But it's nice to know that the fan community, for the most part, it's been my experience in my life that the fan community has mostly been, it's been a great place. I mean, as I said, it's only recently that things like Gamergate or the sad and rabid puppies fiasco at the Hugo Awards and this acrimony with The Last Jedi and now with Captain Marvel, these things haven't been my experience growing up as an OG, an original geek. And it's nice to hear that people feel that these chats are bringing that kind of positivity, because my fandom in my life has brought me nothing but positivity. Nothing but positivity. It's fun. And by the way, I'm going to make a significant change into how these chats look. I'm going to shift things around today, and I'm finally going to try to get up the Wirecast, so I'm going to have more graphics, a lot more flashy production, really stepping it up a notch. But behind me, I'm going to put a wall of glass shelves with all my Hot Toys figures in them. Not all of them, but select Hot Toys. And so you're not just looking at my little antechamber laundry room office. So I'm going to step it up. But yeah, it's been great. And I think that the positivity that I've been getting back from you guys and girls and gentle people and all kinds of cross-section of humanity that watch these chats, it's been great for me to get that. And I'm glad that you guys feel the same way. Because otherwise, why do it? So Mark C is here. My biggest disappointment about Motel Hell, says Mark C, is the old man put preservatives in his jam. Now, if you guys haven't seen Motel Hell, it's 1980, and the ad line for the movie was, "It takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent's fritters," and it's about a farmer and his wife who make their meats out of people. And it truly is one of the great early 80s horror movies. I'm surprised no one's remade it, or maybe somebody hasn't. It just passed me by, but it's up there, man. It is up there. You guys got to watch Motel Hell. Celadon Sound says, ever been to Japan, Rob? No. I dream of going to Japan, but if I went to Japan, I'd have to take like $50,000 because I would spend it all on Chogokin toys and action figures and Gundam model kits. It would be horrifying. Uh, uh, noticed, Aaron Strelinsky says, noticed Doctor Strange stopped a black hole attack. Yes. Did he? I guess he did. But yeah. Dr. Gaster says, this has kind of bothered me ever since you went to Lucky Baldwin's. You ordered beer and whiskey. Which one do you drink first? Thanks for clearing that up for me. Love your show. Okay, what Dr. Gaster is referring to on Sunday, I always take Gilbert to our local pub, which is just down the street, a couple blocks away, Lucky Baldwin's. And it's in Pasadena on Colorado Boulevard. If anybody ever wants to do a like chat. And the reason I like to go there is because they have pretty good food, but I can sit outside and they will make a chicken breast for Gilbert without anything on it or cooked. It'll just be like raw chicken, but grilled. And that's one of his favorite treats. He loves to, and while Gilbert gets to have his favorite treats, I'll sit down and order. I always get Jameson. You know, when I'm walking the dog or whatever, I'm not there to sample any kind of single malts or anything like that. It's just Jameson to me is like quaffable like water. So I'll have a Jameson, and I was having a Hefeweizen at the time, but I always start with the whiskey. You got to start with the whiskey. The beer is just a back. You start with the whiskey always. And usually I like to get Allagash White. So Jameson and Allagash White is sort of my daily drinking. That's what I like to do. So yeah. Let's see. Willow Yang is here. Hello, Willow. I loved your letter, by the way. Thank you. Well, you sent me a couple with the most recent one. When I visited Japan, where my dad worked for a couple of years, my mom saw all the wild pigeons there and immediately wanted to find a way to catch and eat them. They're a delicacy in China. Wow. How does pigeon taste, man? Aren't pigeons like the rats of the sky? I mean, they look good. They're cute. But I don't know, man. I don't know. That's hilarious. Dale M says, oh my God, Motel Hell. I haven't heard that name in many, many years. I loved it when I was younger. It's probably not what I remember, but it was laugh out loud. I got to try and find it somewhere. Prepper James says, I miss working in the video store. It was fun talking to customers about movies. Man, I worked in video stores for 8 years. My last was at Seattle Silver Platters. I was the Laserdisc retailer and buyer. I ran the entire Laserdisc division for Silver Platters, and it was great. Oh, let's see. Keith says, happy, I don't know what happy Post-Geek Day, everyone. Maybe Vesna, if she's here, can tell me what that is. I don't know. Michael Evans says, work for Toys R Us in Chester, England. Left a couple of weeks before the store shut. Oh, man. What a bummer. Did they let you, like, take toys at 50% off? Did you score some action figures? Because that would have been pretty cool. Vesna is here. Vesna wants to know, Robert, what is the current state on Tango Shalom? For those who don't know, I'm currently producing and I've edited, and now I'm moving into the full-on post-production. I'm finishing. I'm handing off Tango Shalom to other talented people. It's going to the composer, who's going to score it. It goes to the sound mixing team, which are first going to sound design the movie, and then of course they will mix it. And we will be color timing. I'm supposed to find out actually later today about color timing sessions, where I will be working with my director of photography, Massimo. And by the way, I will make videos of all of this process. I'll take us into the color timing bay where you can watch how we color time a movie or color correct or color grade. And I will take you into sound sessions, maybe some Foley sessions or dialogue editing sessions. And hopefully, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get in to the film festival. I don't know if we're going to get in, but I'm really hoping that the Seattle International Film Festival will be, my hometown, will be the first place Tango Shalom will be seen sometime in mid-May to mid-June. So I'll keep you abreast on that. And if you know anybody at the Seattle Film Festival and you can pull any strings for me, it's been 10 years since I brought a movie I produced there, which was The Hills Run Red. I hope to get back this year with Tango Shalom for the world premiere of Tango Shalom, which I think would be great. So that's what's up with Tango Shalom, which is great. Let's see. Yellow Flash says, Rob, do you like that Rogue took Captain Marvel's powers back in 1981 and had her powers and personality for 20 years? Yes. What Yellow Flash is referring to is one of my favorite single issues of a comic book ever, Avengers Annual number 10 from 1981. It was written by Chris Claremont. It was drawn by the fabulous Michael Golden. It is one of my favorite comics of all time, superhero comics. Get it, read it, love it. It's so good. Although the Carol Danvers of that time was very, very different than the Captain Marvel character that Carol Danvers is today. But one of my favorite comics of all time. It's fantastic. Bill Barkley says, I'm sick of hearing the toxic comments about Brie Larson. I know, man. Like, what's not to love? I don't know if you guys saw her on Jimmy Kimmel last night. Before the premiere of Captain Marvel, she was across the street at the Jimmy Kimmel show, and she was explaining how she had to be taught how to make superhero faces, like how she could turn around and look tough. It was hilarious. And she seems like she's really nice and a lot of fun. Clayton George says, I went to see Blood-Sucking Freaks on YouTube simply because I saw that it's on here. It's here uncut, and damn, it's worth the time. That dartboard moment, wow. Yes, the infamous dartboard moment from Blood-Sucking Freaks. What's really interesting is, you know, with all of the acrimony and all of the far left progressive identity politics and people screaming for social justice, go back and watch movies like Solo and Blood-Sucking Freaks and Thriller, A Cruel Picture. And remember where we've come from. And remember what was out there for people to watch. I mean, again, people's heads would explode if they've seen this stuff. Yellow Flash says, do you think Ronan the Accuser could have taken on or killed Thanos when he combined the Power Stone with his hammer staff? Maybe, but I don't know. Because even without the Infinity Stones, Thanos is still the Mad Titan. He's pretty tough. So, Sanity's Radical says Motel Hell is amazing. Sanity's Radical also says meat's meat and a man's got to eat. You know what? It makes me want to just watch Motel Hell again right now. You know? Trinidad the Island Man says, great stuff, Rob. Keep it up. As a kid, when finishing my comics, I would find myself studying the back cover page, dreaming of which prize I would choose if I were to sell seeds or the crazy grit. I love that. You know, it was the mysterious items you could find in the pages of a comic book that were always like sea monkeys. You know, I know they were just like krill or shrimp or whatever the hell they were, but you know, I always wanted to believe that you could get sea monkeys and suddenly you'd have anthropomorphized fish walking around in a fishbowl in your room, and you could talk to them. And I mean, that was the bill of goods that they sold. Or remember when you'd buy, like, did you ever buy like 1,000 army men, and you'd think that they would be like the 3-dimensional army men, and you'd buy them, and it was just these flat 1-dimensional plastic army men, which I felt that was one of the first times I realized that the earth, the world, can be a cruel place, and your dreams can be destroyed, dashed on the rocks. Terrible. Those were not good times. Dale M says, yes, Farmer Vincent. You know what? I love the fact that there's a lot of Motel Hell fans here. If you guys haven't seen Motel Hell, get on it. I want to know, is it still the movie I remember? Writer BL Ali says, Rob, did Mike relay my request? Yes. About tearing the cover off the book? Yes. I'm starting to feel stalkery, but I intend no ill, I assure you. Writer BL Ali actually sent me a book a couple of years back, and I still have it. And he wanted me to take the cover off because there's a new cover, which is good. I want to see the new cover, which is good. Prepper James says, my Blockbuster store had Laserdiscs. I still have my player hooked up at about 50 discs. Laserdisc was the way to go back then. And yes, it was. And it still is. I got to fire up my. The problem is, you know, watching NTSC on my HD monitor, I probably have to get some kind of a switcher. It's going to strobe. It's not going to look good. Yeah, I think that wouldn't be so good. Mark C says, pigeon is not good, but it's better than duck. Oh, man, Koba's here. I love Koba. Koba, I still can't believe there was a time when Shazam was more popular than Superman. Here's a really interesting thing. One of my favorite comics as a kid was a Superman comic. And I forget the name of the Superman comic, but they didn't have the rights to Shazam yet, or DC hadn't bought the rights from Fawcett. I don't know how it worked. but they had a very thinly disguised character named Captain Thunder, and Thunder was an acronym just like Shazam was. Shazam was, of course, not his name. It was Captain Marvel. But it was a Superman comic, and they had Superman fighting Captain Thunder. And the cover has like Captain Thunder going this way and Superman going this way. And it was easily one of my favorite comics. I think I read that comic 1,000 times. I'm not sure what number it is. I used to talk about this on Collider Heroes. But look up Superman versus Captain Thunder, and I'm sure you'll get a picture immediately, and you'll know what I'm talking about. It was great. Clayton George says, as far as I'm concerned, all this anger is silly. Less barking, more wagging. I prefer the attitude of Professor Elemental's song, All In Together. It's far cheerier about being weird. I don't disagree with you, Clayton. You know, that's another thing. I mean, everybody bitches and moans and complains. Like, why don't you go do something on your own? Go make something. You know, what's so cool about what we did on Heroes and now on the John Campea show, there are so many people out there that send us artwork and send me things that they've created or outlines for stories. And I'm like, man, that's what you guys should be doing. You know, why are you wasting energy on something that is not positive? I mean, it's so weird to me. Like, people say, oh, Disney Star Wars. Well, if Disney didn't buy Star Wars, it's a good bet there wouldn't be any new Star Wars. I mean, as much as I might have problems with things, I still like going to see Star Wars movies. I still get a thrill. You know, I really always like that. Mark C says, let's forget hate and talk business. Carol Danvers' Captain Marvel is a failed concept. The comic's title was canceled 4 times in 7 years and never made it to 20 issues. Yeah, but you know what? That's true. That is true. And I do think, however, the Carol Danvers concept is pretty cool. I've loved the character, again, since Avengers Annual 10. I love that. So I think it's cool that I mean, they could have made her Miss Marvel, or they could have done, you know, Monica as Captain Marvel, but you know, they didn't. So I mean, we got. It's still cool. I still think it's cool. But you're right. I mean, she hasn't been a great character in the comics. Anthony Trullo, or is it Trullo? Trullo says, what did you think of The Terminator? Just rewatched it. Classic James Cameron. Also looking forward to Captain Marvel seeing Thursday night. Well, first of all, man, I wish I could explain, like back in the 80s, there was so many great action movies that you would see. And they were surprising. Like, you could get your mind blown. And The Terminator came out in 1984. And, you know, everybody wanted to see it because Schwarzenegger, when he played Conan in 82, 2 years previous to that, everyone loved Schwarzenegger in the role of Conan. It was great. Sandahl Bergman. I mean, that's another funny thing. You look at Conan, look at Sandahl Bergman's character in that movie. She kicked ass. She was awesome. And I watched a YouTube video today where somebody went back and talked about all the action heroines of cinema, back to Ripley, and they brought up Xena, and Sandahl Bergman was in that video clip. But I loved The Terminator. I mean, The Terminator was one of those movies where you didn't know much about it. And look, it was done pretty low budget. I mean, it's grainy and the Skotax effects and stuff like that. Yeah, but it's awesome. And The Terminator has, sure, there's a few dodgy makeup effects, but for the most part, The Terminator is relentless. It's awesome. The music score is great. The miniature work is great. It's just relentless, in your face. It's peak B-movie filmmaking. I mean, I think James Cameron, even though he's made A-list budgets, he's still the greatest B-movie maker out there. He just, you know, parlay that. I mean, is Aliens not the greatest? I mean, Alien is still this sort of Tiffany top drawer movie, but Aliens kind of brought that grungy 80s action war film thing to it, which is great, and which is why I love it. I mean, you can see, you look at Terminator and you watch Aliens right after, and there's so much there that you can recognize. So yeah, man, I loved The Terminator. I've watched that movie 100 times. It's funny, I prefer it over Terminator 2. The Terminator is still my favorite Terminator movie because of its simplicity and its purity. It doesn't get any better than Terminator, man. It really doesn't. Caledon Santos, I'd love to see some of this BTS mix stage stuff. I used to be a sound editor at one of the major post houses in London, so I'd love to ask questions. Hey, absolutely. You know, I'm sorry my video last week at the Skyfighter mix session so dodgy. I just didn't have good internet connection, and I didn't have good service where I was, sort of. So I apologize for that, but I will continue to do these chats, and whenever I'm actually working, it's important to me that all you people realize that unlike a lot of YouTubers and people, that I am just as much working in film and working on films and stuff while I do this. You know, I'm not just talking out of my ass. So whenever I can bring what I'm doing in terms of filmmaking to you guys, and I can show things publicly, I will always do that, because I think that's something that I can offer you guys, this audience, that not a lot of other people can. I mean, that's sort of what Robservations can bring you that other YouTubers can't. That's sort of my unique bent. That and my unbridled enthusiasm and positivity. Alexander Wilson says, you haven't seen Better Call Saul. It's excellent, and some people say it's better than Breaking Bad. Vince Gilligan is going to go down as one of the best writers in the history of Hollywood. Also, he loves Trek. I love Vince Gilligan. I first came and encountered him when he was writing for X-Files. You know, I watched a couple episodes of Better Call Saul, but like Breaking Bad, I missed it upon first release. And when they released the full series, I have the full series box of Breaking Bad, the 50-gallon oil drum. And it's awesome. I also have figures of Walter White, and I have a figure of Saul himself that I should, you know, once I change it up here, I'll display a lot more of my figures in the background, so it won't look just like an office. It'll be more geeky. But I can't wait to see Better Call Saul. I'm gonna have to sit down and binge watch it. But I love Vince Gilligan. I didn't know he was a Trek fan. That's good to hear. Mark C says, the flat plastic army men you ordered from comic books were fodder for my G.I. Joe figures. It's all they were good for. Yeah, man, it was, you get like this, you think you're getting a bunch of cool three-dimensional, you know, army men, like the Toy Story army men, those kinds of army men that R. Lee Ermey led. But unfortunately, that was not to be, which really kind of sucked, to be honest. Mark C says, Robert, how much EPK have you done? A lot. I've done a lot of EPK. What was interesting was my company, which still exists, Ludovico Technique, is my production company. It's a Clockwork Orange reference. You know, when I was doing my DVD work for 15 years, I produced a lot of DVD special features. You can see my documentary work on The Usual Suspects, X-Men 1 and X2, Superman Returns, Chronicles of Narnia, Star Trek V, Shoot 'em Up, the Lord of the Rings movies. I did a feature-length documentary on the making of Tron. And when I was working on like Superman and Chronicles of Narnia, I was doing both jobs. I was the EPK producer, because I would be on Chronicles of Narnia. My team and I were in country. We were in New Zealand for 14 months. We were permanent fixtures on the set. The same was true of Superman Returns. I was on the set of Superman Returns for 10, almost 11 months, shooting every day. And you can see that documentary. I made a 3-hour documentary about the production of Superman Returns called Requiem for Krypton, and it's on the Blu-ray for Superman Returns, which you can see. Nicholas Glenn says, I hope they're setting up Captain Marvel to bring Rogue in and take her powers to kick off the X-Men, and then Captain Marvel gets kicked to the curb and we end all this division. Actually, I think that might be pretty cool, but I don't know how you would explain how Rogue takes the power of somebody who's been imbued with their powers by the Kree. That might be a little difficult to explain, but I do like that storyline. I mean, I think that just because that story is so blown, it's so a part of my brain. I've read Avengers Annual 10 so many times. Nicholas Glenn says, I missed all kinds of super chats in last night's video. I heard that. Listen, if I've missed super chats, I'll go back and look. Please tell me. I will go back and answer like John Campy does. I'll make a companion video. So if I ever miss your super chats, I apologize. That is in remiss, and I will get to those questions. And I feel terrible if I missed your super chat, so I feel bad. Murray Reich, thank you for sending in that. I appreciate your contribution there. Jim Boyers is here. Officer Boyers, how are you, sir? Really enjoyed your live chilling with Gilbert. Rob, Gilbert, want to fry? Gilbert, hey, Dad, I know they say there are no dumb questions, but yes, I did make, it was funny. I just, spur of the moment, when I was taking Gilbert for a walk and we were at Lucky Baldwin's, I just wanted to see if I could just stream. I was like, why don't I do that more? Would people watch this? But people seem to really like that. So maybe more chilling with Gilbert videos. Actually, Mike Bodden suggested I do like that. Elizabeth and I take Gilbert to various restaurants in here in Pasadena and have like lunch with Gilbert videos and do restaurant reviews of the local eating establishments that let us bring our dogs. There's a lot of places in Pasadena where you can eat and be outside with your dogs. And as it gets warmer in the spring, it's a great place to walk around with your animal. And Gilbert loves people and loves going out and having adventures. So, I mean, there he is, everybody. Gilbert's asleep. Hey, Gilbert. Yeah, he's out. He's out. But there he is in his perch, in his little doggy bed and his giant Christmas bone that we got him. Rolo Tomasi says, Rob, do you think the B4 unit will be addressed in the new Star Trek Picard series? Is he essentially Data reborn? Man, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Maybe that'd be interesting. I mean, I think the obvious answer is you're going to want to see, the fans are going to want to see other characters from Next Gen to come on these shows. I mean, I would hope that we might see them. Prepper James says, I wish they would give Eddie Furlong a cameo in the new Terminator movie. Crossing my fingers. I would hope so too, because that would be good. Celadon Sound asks, in your work on film, pre-production, post-production, or otherwise, can you imagine any mobile app that would make your work life easier? No, that's actually there are many different mobile apps that people have made for film production. And a lot of them, like you see, iPads are ubiquitous on film sets. I mean, everything, you keep your storyboards there. There's so many, there's even storyboard programs that I've used. There's so many things. There's script supervisor programs. I mean, everything that you want to be able to do on a set for pre-production or post-production, there is some kind of app to use. There's a lot of different ones. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any at this particular moment, but there are a lot. And carrying around an iPad has almost become essential. I mean, you can store your script there. You can, especially for a director or a producer like myself, it's really invaluable to have many of these tools. Alexander Wilson says that meaning Vince Gilligan, cast John Delancey in Breaking Bad, and he wanted Mike's ringtone to be Trek's TNG theme for a scene, but the owners of Trek wanted $200,000 for it. He said, never mind. He thought it was too much. That's so, see, yeah, that's my problem. The people that are in control of Star Trek, come on, come on. But I believe that. William Forster says, hi, Rob. Love your observations, thoughtful and insightful thoughts on Geekdom. Been watching about a month. Finally subscribed a week ago. Better Call Saul is a great show. Well, first of all, William, thank you for subscribing. I very much appreciate that. And I like everybody being here and participating in these chats because they're fun. And I never know what anyone's going to say or do. Mark C says, I did an EPK for a movie starring Clifton Powell. They didn't use what I shot. And once the DP got mad because my shooting of the action was a better angle. Mark brings up a good point. Shooting EPK, what EPK means is electronic press kit. And they don't, before an electronic press kit, they would make a press kit where they would ask actors questions and the actors would answer, and they'd give you the actors' answers, and then you could insert, local news channels or whatever could insert their own interviewer on the other end and make it look like their local anchors were interviewing stars. And then an EPK team would shoot a couple of days of behind the scenes. So when I was doing my DVD work, I would sometimes work with the studio and we would be their EPK team as well, because we would be shooting both interviews with the cast and crew and behind the scenes for both the DVD special features or the Blu-ray special features and the EPK team. But frequently what Mark is referring to, like when you're on set with a camera, you want to make sure that you're out of the way of the actual people making the movie, because the first time you do that, it's not good. You don't ever want it. You want to make sure that nobody even knows you're there. And Murray Reich says, Han had it coming. Man, you people are bloodthirsty. Bloodthirsty. I'm telling you. Why do you got to be that way? Why do people not want Sun Kang to feel the justice he deserves? Why? Why? Han had it coming. Come on, dude. Capester says, by the way, Saul isn't Breaking Bad, but it is very good, getting better, and more importantly, they're getting the band back together. That's what I've heard. I've heard it's coming up. They're going to meet, finally. Sebastian says, have you seen or read One Punch Man? Second season of the anime is finally dropping on April 2nd. I have. I love One Punch Man. As a matter of fact, I was looking at a One Punch Man 6-scale action figure just today. So, yes, I didn't buy it, though. Capester says, Rob, my wife came to talk to me, and I'm not sure if you have acknowledged me. Can we talk about my needs? I love that. That's very funny. Jeremiah Noonan says, South America and Saudi flooded. South America and Saudi Arabia flooded because the hole in magnetic field allowed the force of speed travel in space to push the water up. Wake up and see the truth. Okay. The speed travel, the force of speed, is that like a Flash thing or is that in real life? Is that the Speed Force? Josh Tallis says, have you ever watched popular daytime TV show Peppa Pig? I have not. I've not. What is Peppa Pig? Koba says, you worked on Narnia. I think they're very underrated fantasy movies. Liam Neeson is the second best voice for a lion. James Earl Jones being the first, of course. Shame they didn't finish the series. I agree. I mean, I'm happy they got as far into it as they did. The problem is, you know, they obviously people think C.S. Lewis in the same breath as J.R.R. Tolkien, but their work is sort of, it comes from a very different place, even though, you know, they were both the Inklings and they were up at Oxford and all that. But I think that it is different. But I agree with you. I think it really would have been hard to make all of the Narnia books. But I loved working on Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I love Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and I love Prince Caspian. And it's a very worthy trilogy that nobody talks about as a trilogy, being a trilogy, but really good. Dr. Gaster thinks, yeah, great idea to have lunch with Gilbert. Well, Bill Barkley asks if I've watched the trailer for Shanghai Fortress yet. No, but it sounds like it's right up my alley. Let's see. UFO Status Report says, I made my first episode about UFO. Do you wish to sponsor my second episode? We'll have to see it. I got to look that up, UFO Status Report. Bill Barkley says, unfortunately, Captain Worf isn't happening. I don't know why. Why don't they make a Captain Worf show? I'd watch the heck out of that. It'd be totally great. Apple Crow says, the best way to bring back Spiner would be to have B4 contain most of Soong's logs and create an EMH version of Soong to explain Spiner's aging. That's not a bad idea. I like that idea. They're going to have a holographic life form in this new series. That'll be interesting. Crixus Maximus says, the whole reason Data died is because Spiner realized he was visibly aging while Data never should. Before is only there, so the ending of Nemesis would be upbeat. Well, you know what they could do? Just like in All Good Things, they can just say that Data redesigned his exterior to look like he was aging to make himself fit in more. He had that skunk stripe in All Good Things, but that's all he had. I mean, it would make sense. You know, it would make sense that Data is doing that to age. Or maybe Data built something into his own programming where he is internally aging because he wants to have a real lifespan. Or maybe not. I don't know. Let's see. Brian Ing says, what happened to you in Ludovico? You said you made a lot of money there. Did you want to try something? No. Ludovico is my production company. I still do things under Ludovico Technique. That was my place. I still have it. It's my name. As many of you know, I self-published a comic book called Living in Infamy under the Ludovico banner, and I am going to continue to do Ludovico projects. Mark C says, I wasn't in the shot. The producer looked at the dailies for the film and the EPK. He liked my camera angle better. It upset the DP. It was a very low budget film. Oh, I've been there. Yeah, it's interesting. But, you know, film sets can be, especially low budget film sets, are rough places. Time is at a premium. Sanity is Radical says, Rob, if you haven't read it, I recommend Swan Song by Robert McCammon. Best post-apocalyptic novel I've ever read. Sanity. Robert McCammon's one of my favorite writers. I discovered Robert McCammon at summer camp at the Flying Horseshoe Ranch in Cleellum, Washington. I took his magnum opus horror novel, They Thirst, to camp with me. And I used to read the opening prologue. The first line of that book is, "Tonight there were demons in the hearth." It's one of my dream film projects. If I had an endless supply of money, I'd make a 5-night miniseries or a miniseries for HBO, and I would turn They Thirst. It's one of my dream projects. Swan Song is epic. I love Swan Song. It's great. I don't love it as much as I love The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand, but Swan Song had nuclear apocalypse in it. So I always remember there's a scene in Swan Song where like people are looking out of a jetliner and nukes are going off. And I remember a bus, like a school bus, has been flung into the air and either it goes past one of the windows on the plane or something. But yeah, Swan Song by Robert McCammon, big, big, big recommendation. One of my favorite books too. He also wrote a story called Night Calls the Green Falcon. Robert McCammon is a wonderful writer. He took time off. I actually got to meet him the first summer I lived in Los Angeles, and it was amazing. He's one of my favorite writers. Love him. Incredible. So yeah, I highly recommend that. Got to read that if you haven't. If you like horror and you like, he's writing like historical fantasy books now or something. Michael Evans says, Peppa Pig is a British kids show, so it's unlikely Rob has seen it. I say unlikely. I've not seen it, but now I want to see what Peppa Pig is all about. Let's see. Matt Limpicki says, I'd like Traffic. I don't like to be stuck in traffic. Traffic the movie or Traffic the series? The original series. Victor Acosta says, latest Shazam trailer was awesome. Love the bit where he throws a Batman display at someone and screams, get him, Batman. It's pretty funny. Now I'm wondering, does Batman exist in the Shazam universe? Is Shazam part of the DC universe or not? I'm curious. Donnie Pearson says, hello, everyone. Hello again, Rob. I'm working on my music engraving turned mock-up cover of the original Beverly Hills 90210 theme tune as a tribute to Dylan McKay himself, the late Luke Perry. I know, it's freaking me out that we've lost Luke Perry. It really is freaking me out. Let's see. Deep Penzak says, hi, new to your channel. Saw you lost your Star Trek 3 treatment by Harv Bennett. Would you like a replacement copy? Yes. Yes, if you have that, it's the Return to Genesis treatment. Please email it to me at rmburnett, RMBURNETT 1701 @gmail.com. I'd love to get it back again. Robert April said it was mentioned in TNG that Data has an aging subroutine, so that issue was already dealt with. Oh, there you go. That's cool. Prepper James says maybe Data turned into a female. Maybe he wanted that. Now that would be really interesting from a Star Trek standpoint. That Data underwent gender reassignment surgery because he wanted to see what it was like to live as a female. That would be interesting. Koba says, in 2005, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was the second highest grossing movie after Revenge of the Sith, even beating a Harry Potter movie. Wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Aaron Johnson said, if the Han Solo Star Wars movies were redone, keep Donald Glover out and have Kevin Hart as Lando and Zachary Levi the Rock or Jack Black as Han Solo. I don't know about that. Let's see. Yeah, you're a troll. I'm going to take you out. There you go, buddy. Let's see. Sanity's Radical says, he's amazing. Right up there with Stephen King, in my humble opinion. They Thirst is great. Boy's Life is one of the best books on coming of age ever. Indeed, it is. Boy's Life is another great Robert McCammon book. I'm glad you like McCammon. I'm glad people are still reading McCammon. It's very nice to hear. Xandar Nebuchadnezzar. Wait, I just lost your thing. I like your name, Xandar Nebuchadnezzar. Hello, R&B, but you had a question I was reading, and I wanted to read it, and then it switched, and I can't find it now. Oh, here you go. Xandar Nebuchadnezzar says, by the way, that's the name of the Nebuchadnezzar. I know it's biblical, but it's the name from the ship from the Matrix. If Data were alive following Nemesis, do you think he would spend time doing more research to try and create another Lol? Yeah, probably. why not? I think you would have done that absolutely. And you know, if you read Star Trek novels, one of my favorite Star Trek novel writers, David Mack, wrote a great trilogy about all of Noonien Sung's creations and Data and all the artificial life forms. It's really good. Clayton George says, Robert McCammon is a stunner. My favorite is The Wolf's Hour. The Wolf's Hour. Oh, that is such a great book. You got to read The Wolf's Hour. It's werewolves against a werewolf against the Nazis. How could you not love that? You have to love that because it's incredible. So everybody go read some Robert McCammon because it's great. Neil Bulk says, the world is destroyed in Swan Song on my birthday. For those of you who don't know, and I keep forgetting to do this, Neil Bulk frequently works with La La Land Records, producing soundtrack albums, and he worked on getting the animated Star Trek the Animated Series music out to CD. And I keep forgetting to order this, but La La Land just dropped a 3-disc expanded John Williams score to Superman the movie, and there's like an alternate take for Krypton. Somebody told me, Cliff Stevenson was telling me that it's just incredible. So I keep forgetting to order it. I'm going to go do it right now after I get off this chat. Everybody order, go to La La Land Records website and write them, deluge them with letters telling them that I told you to send them letters, and go buy their Superman CD, because the last time Lucas Kendall, who made Skyfighter, the last time Lucas Kendall went to La La Land Records, they gave him a box of goodies to bring me, a lot of CDs, including the soundtracks to Airport 77 and Airport 79, which are the best. But I guess you had to be there because I saw both of those movies in the theater. I've talked about that before. But La La Land Records is amazing. You got to go buy their stuff and tell them that I sent you. But go get the 3-disc Superman the movie soundtrack because it's awesome. Matt Limpicki says, hey, Robert, do you think that Bradley Cooper is the next Leonardo DiCaprio of the Oscars? Why do you think that the Academy Awards hate Bradley Cooper? That man deserves an Oscar, and Amy Adams. How in the hell? I don't know, man. And, you know, who doesn't love Bradley Cooper? I mean, every time I've ever seen him talk, I like him. You know, the guy speaks fluent French. I like watching Bradley Cooper's appearances on French talk shows just because I like to watch him speak French. I don't speak French. I wish I spoke French. But, yeah, I think Bradley Cooper is awesome. And, yeah. So why not? Victor Acosta says, would love to see Shazam and Flash interact. And yes, Rob, according to behind-the-scenes pics, Shazam is in the DCU. There's Freddy has different Easter eggs in a collection featuring Batman and Superman. But yeah, but they could just be Batman and Superman from the comics. I don't know. I would love to see that, though. I don't know what they have against the Oscars. I really don't. Well, now you guys, speaking of that, D. Penzak says Devil in the White City is reported to be a miniseries on Hulu. Man, if you guys haven't read Devil in the White City, you got to read Devil in the White City. It's funny. There was a time when I was getting all these historical books like The Crimson Petal and the White, that was by the same guy who wrote the book, Mark. It's either Faber or Farber, who wrote Under My Skin, which is they made it into the Scarlett Johansson movie. If you guys want to see a really interesting science fiction film, one of my favorite, it's right up there with things like Children of Men and Never Let Me Go. You've got to read. Well, you could read the book too, Under the Skin, that stars Scarlett Johansson. It is a very different experience, but it is really interesting. It fits right in with movies like Annihilation. But yeah, so check that out. Let's see. Sanity is Radical. Another book recommendation, Ender's Game and Speaker for the Dead by Orson Scott Card, novels of all time. Yes, the Ender's Game books are incredible. Even if, you don't like Orson Scott Card's politics, the Ender's Game books, the whole Ender's universe is really, really interesting. It's really, really great. James Dodd says, I used to watch Heroes for Schnepp. I never really knew who you were, but recently realized you've been in my life for 20 years. Free Enterprise was one of the first DVDs I ever bought in the early aughts. Well, thank you for that, James. Yeah, I did Heroes with John for 3.5 years, and I did Free Enterprise. It came out. This is the 20th anniversary of Free Enterprise. For those of you who don't know, I did make a movie with William Shatner 20 years ago that I directed and co-wrote and I edited, and hopefully I'll be able to get it out for the 20th anniversary this year in a new Blu-ray version, maybe. James goes on to say, it was one of my favorite films back then. I'm also a huge DVD extras fan. You made so many of those extras. Also, I was fortunate to go to the Star Trek Experience on a family holiday from the UK a long time ago. Yes, I worked on the Star Trek Experience in Vegas. I cut all of the videos that you saw as you walked around the attraction. Man, that was fun. It was fun. I've told the story before, but they paid me $1,750 a week to watch Star Trek episodes, and I had that job for like a year and a half. And I once I watched them, once I ingested them into the computer, into the Avid, I had to cut them into videos, and you later saw them. They were in the Star Trek Experience for the duration, which was great. Destiny Captain says, see, now we're getting into Destiny Captain asks me, am I familiar with the War Against the Tor? Okay. The War Against the Tor is one of the most, if you guys want to read one of the most addictive science fiction book series of all time, but here's the problem. It's 4 books. There's a Matter for Men, A Day for Damnation, A Rage for Revenge, and Matter for Men. It's A Matter for Men, A Day for Damnation, A Rage for Revenge, and there's a 4th book that I'm missing. But they're written by David Gerald, who wrote The Trouble with Tribbles. It's the most addictive. It's the only series of novels I've read 5 times all the way through. I always pick up the first book, A Matter for Men. It's incredible. But Gerald hasn't finished. He hasn't written the 5th book. I've been waiting. A Method for Madness. I've been waiting for the 5th book for 25 years. He says he's been talking about finishing the book forever. And I'm friends with David, and they're not done. But the 4 books are incredible. Basically, these books are about an alien ecosystem that is invading our planet and literally transforming it out from under us. And there's animals and plant life, and humanity's basically fucked. And these books are so great because, first of all, there's so many great ideas in them, but the threat just gets more and more dire as the books go on. If I could make a TV series, I would make The War Against the Tor into a TV series. If I could adapt anything into a TV series, it would be that. Those books are great. I cannot recommend them highly enough. I love this. I should start Rob's book chat because you guys know your stuff. People are throwing out some great stuff here. James LH says, hi, Rob. Love your show. Can't always watch you and John's show live with work, and I'm now visiting Dad in the hospital. Well, give your dad my best. By the way, I'm with you on watching Thrones on Blu-ray before the final season. Fish and chips fan, eh? Well, I grew up in Seattle, and one of my favorite places, if you ever go to Seattle, you have to go to Spud Fish and Chips. Spud, not Spuds, just Spud Fish and Chips. But you got to go to the Spud Fish and Chips at Alki Beach, because, and what you do is they wrap them up in paper, and you walk across the street, and there's the beach. You got Alki Beach, and you sit on like the logs there, and the seagulls, they live off that fish and chips, and they will accost you. You go out there, and suddenly it's like the birds. It's like Hitchcock's The Birds. You go to Alki, you'll get literally 100 seagulls. I'm not exaggerating. They all fly down, and they come at you. They encircle you, and they hope you feed them. It's the best. But Spud Fish and Chips are the greatest things ever. Xandar Nebuchadnezzar says, do you play a game for smartphones called Star Trek Timelines? I did for a while. It's on my phone. But now I've been playing this Star Trek Fleet game, which was fun when nobody was there. And I got my ship up really high, and you just go kick people's asses for fun. But now I haven't played, so I need more points. Bartomax says, thoughts on Discovery turning Sarek into a pedophile? There, Amanda is 10 years older than Burnham. They took in Burnham when she was about 10, but had Spock about 7 years earlier than that. Crazy. Don't even get me started. Ugh. Yeah, I know. But James LH, thank you for the comments. But yes, fish and chips, that's the way to go. I love fish and chips. Let's see. Dale M says, Dale M says, I admittedly don't know much about Bosnian or Serbian history, but it's never too late to learn. Well, you should learn. You should learn about the rich history of the Baltic states and what happened there, because it is very interesting and beautiful, even though I've never been there. Capester says, okay, Rob, I'm a moron. My wife came out to talk to me, and then I saw a squirrel. What was the name of the post-apocalyptic book you referenced earlier? I think it was Swan Song. Was that what we were talking about, Swan Song? Um, Bunyan Snipe, I don't see what Clayton George says. I don't see why Feige would keep a She-Hulk movie from happening as long as it was done as John Byrne did it. I'm there. I agree. Shulky getting to bitch about the CGI and punch the camera. Bunyan Snipe says you should work for the Seattle Tourist Board. Well, it is my hometown. I did grow up in Seattle, and I do love it. It's a very different place than when I grew up, but it was great. Victor Acosta says, who will be sitting on the Iron Throne once Game of Thrones is over? Here's my prediction. I think the person who has played the Game of Thrones best is Tyrion Lannister. I think Tyrion Lannister will be the king of Westeros when it is all over. I think that Dany and Jon Snow are going to sacrifice themselves. I think Tyrion might, in fact, be, I do subscribe to the theory that Tyrion is a Targaryen. That's why he was so hated by his family, is because they know he's a Targaryen. He was probably given to the Lannisters for some reason. They made a deal. Well, I don't know what happened. But I also think that Tyrion is going to be revealed as a Lannister, and he will, or I mean, as a Targaryen, and he will also ride a dragon. Chris Miller says, I can't watch, but I thought I'd drop by to thanks for doing some evening shows so I can enjoy live. Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate the support, sir. I'll keep doing that. Well, listen, I do have to get to work, guys. Matt Lempicki says, are you still good with Collider? And I wish that you and John Campion and Collider came to WonderCon in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so I can meet you. Never been to WonderCon, but I would buy tickets. Yeah, I'm fine with Collider. I understand there's other people I am not fine with, and I think that I was treated very shabbily for ridiculous reasons that were way beyond my control. I certainly had nothing to do with that, but it was silly. But no, especially with everybody at the Schmodown, everybody at Collider is very, very nice, and I really like those people. And I had nothing but fun and love for everybody there that I was working with. And I have nothing bad to say about Collider at all. Let's see. King of Scotland says, everything Tyrion touches turns to shit. Tyrion killed the only competent person in the whole kingdom, Tywin. Westeros would be better off if Tywin and Lady Thrill ran the kingdom. Maybe, but they were bastards, man. Come on. Xander Nebuchadnezzar says, I also watched the movie Trivia Schmodown and was glad to see you or someone that looks a lot like you return this season and align with both the Drews. Yes, we are family. I've got all my Drews in me. Absolutely. Crixus Maximus says, Jaime kills Cersei. I think probably. Crixus Maximus says, Bran is the Night King. Yeah, there's something there. Because I really don't see how any army can stop the Night's King ultimately, especially when they've got dragons and giants. I think there's a lot going on. I think we're going to have a very interesting and satisfying ending to Game of Thrones. I really think they're going to stick the landing, and we're probably going to have our jaws down. And I don't think it's going to be what we expected. I think it's going to be something different, like Game of Thrones always does that. But yes, I'm one of those subscribers that Bran is, in fact, the Night King. Also, James LH says, also on a previous show, seeing you with your Prince of Darkness Blu-ray. Again, I have the same box with They Live. Streaming can't replace these boxes. You know, I still have it. It's right here. I just finally took it off and looked at it. The 4K Prince of Darkness. I love these boxes. It's the fourth in the James and the John Carpenter set, James. So you are correct. Dale M says, at least I'm glad to hear about you and Collider. I have mostly stopped watching them because of the way they treated you. From my perspective, I know I don't. Hey, look, what was done to me was unconscionable. I will say that. But it was in there were people that had this, were mistaken about my intent about things and didn't understand. And you know, as I told the people at Collider who knew, I was never going to take over as being the host of Collider Heroes. Other people didn't know I had said that. It was not a good situation. But again, I bear no ill will to Collider or anyone there at all. I love those guys. I'm glad to be a part of the Schmodown. Sanity is Radical says, I pray you're right, Rob. I'm worried they're going to fan service the fuck out of the ending like they did with season 7. Nah, you know what? We needed a win. You know, Game of Thrones, they needed to set us up for a win. I mean, we really needed. I didn't feel it was fan service. Look, it was rushed. Indeed, it was rushed. But I think that, you know, for the most part, what we've got with Game of Thrones has been pretty amazing. And I think we're in for a great season. I really do. Apple Crow says, I'm very disappointed in the writing for Game of Thrones the last few seasons. It feels like they lost their way and doubled down on some bad ideas. Littlefinger's plan seemed to be smirking until he was caught. Yeah, you know, not everything has worked out, but I still have hope. I think it's going to be great. Anyway. Matt Limpicki says, do you think that Christian Harloff would like Pittsburgh, being that he is from New York City? What happened to Collider? Getting into it it's a long story about what happened to Collider, but I think he'd love Pittsburgh. Why not? Who doesn't love Pittsburgh? I've been to Pittsburgh. You know why I love Pittsburgh? Because that's where George Romero's from. And I was going to go to Pittsburgh last summer when they were celebrating the 40th anniversary of Dawn of the Dead at the Monroeville Mall. I've always wanted to go to the Monroeville Mall. Which is sort of funny. Anyway, I have to jump off the phone because I actually have work to do. But I want to thank you for being in this chat with me, all of you, these members of the Post-Geek Singularity community. Thank you for being here. And I really have been touched and really been loving all the emails and messages you've sent me on my Patreon page and on Twitter and as DMs, and especially on my website. The best place to connect with me probably is my website, which is Burnettwork.net. Yesterday on that website, I put up, if you guys like the fan film Prelude to Axanar, I did an audio commentary with director Christian Gossett for Prelude to Axanar that previously appeared on the Blu-ray and the DVD that were available to donors. But I made that audio commentary available on my website at Burnettwork.net, along with 3 other making of the Axanar feature, or the unmaking of 3 Axanar feature film documentaries, because the feature film will never see the light of day. So you can get those and download them. They're open sourced, so you can read them or watch them at your desire, at your will. But anyway, so thanks for being here. And I appreciate all the support and all of everyone's contributions. And again, if I forget your super chats or any of those things, I will get to them. And I just want to say, as always, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. All you have to do is listen. And with that, I end this Tuesday afternoon chat today. By the way, remember, if you're still collecting physical media, Criterion is right now having a 24-hour flash sale where everything is 50% off. Pretty cool. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.